Don't get sad, get angry. Yes, that's what my father, your grandfather, used to always say. Hi, I'm Janet McKee, wellness expert, speaker, best-selling author, founder of SanaView with my business partner, my son, Nathan McKee. Developing for you, as always, an amazing podcast, video, blog article to teach you things, to incredibly inspire you to live a better life. And it comes from our weekly conversations about life and all the teachings that we're putting into the work that we do for you online, and also that I'm writing in my book, Stressless Success. And we put these teachings to use in our lives every day, every week, and we find ourselves facing challenges and situations in our lives just like you do. And we know that by listening to our conversations about life and how we apply the very principles that we teach to our lives to help us improve our lives, that it would benefit you as well. And that's why we're sharing this with you. So many years, my father, when I would call him and say, "Oh, Dad, I'm dealing with this situation and it's really bumming me out," he would say, "My motto always is, don't get sad, get angry." And I would always think to myself, like, what's that supposed to be?
It doesn't sound very nice. It's not like a initially positive thing to think.
Yeah, like I don't want to be angry. Like angry is like a negative thing.
Yeah.
And it makes me realize, as I become older and wiser, that anger can actually be something that fuels positive action.
Yeah.
We talk about in all of our workshops and our teachings and in my book about raising your energy vibration. And there are really low level thoughts and feelings like shame, guilt, fear, right? Hopelessness. Hopelessness is a very low energy vibration type feeling because you're giving up. You're like totally hopeless. You have nothing left in you to try any longer.
And it's always hard to get out of those sorts of feelings. I know that anytime that I start to feel something like that, it's difficult for me to want to change things up and how I feel. And then also it's difficult to actually do it, Yes. So it's like, it's not only a low vibration, but it's also, it kind of like sucks you down. And so getting angry is a good way to maybe break yourself out of that.
Exactly. Anger is a level or two above hopelessness. You're actually want to get out there and fight, so to speak. You want something to change. So it fuels you in a strange way to something that could be positive. That's when right. You think of this. As a matter of fact, you had an experience just last month.
Yeah,
that
absolutely
triggered this for us.
Every July here in Pittsburgh is the Pittsburgh Vintage Grand Prix, which is one of the largest car shows in the country. And every year, since I've got my license, I like to go and participate. And this year was really important to me because I was doing a lot of work on an old BMW. And the week leading up to the Grand Prix, I had spent a ton of hours just working my butt off with me and my friends. And we were trying to get the car done. And it was...
What is it now? An BMW E30?
E30 325 IS. It's a 1990. And it's
kind of a special car, like people think's kind of unique and cool, right?
Yeah, there weren't too many of these made. And, anytime you run into somebody else that has one, it's always nice to be able to talk to the owners, and everybody has the same problems and everything. So it's kind of neat ownership experience. But I was working really hard to get the thing done with the help of my friends. And my buddy and I had spent 6 hours trying to replace the parts in the differential to put it back in the car. And the differential is a very key piece in having a car move under its own power. And after 6 hours of work, we finally get the thing back together, and I put it back up into the car. And as I'm standing behind the car, admiring all the hard work that we just did, I realized that something inside the differential was put together incorrectly. that was a very low point for me in that whole project, because it was countless hours of work, a lot of blood, sweat, and tears going into this thing. And that was the first moment where I really thought to myself, I'm not going to make it this year to the show. And that really that took all the heart out of the project. And I was so sad. Whenever I realized that happened, I just sat on the ground for like 15 minutes, just wallowing in my sadness. And then after the 15 minutes, I was like, this is terrible. I am never going to get this thing done if I'm feeling like this. So I got up. I kind of thought through the process of what I needed to do to get the thing back out of the car, taken apart, and fixed. And I turned that sadness into a little bit of anger, but then into determination. And in 45 minutes, I had the differential out of the car.
But wait a minute.
Yeah.
You're just way too polite. You told me the story slightly differently.
Yeah.
After being sad, you kind of like swore to yourself, right? And this was interesting for me because as his mother, Nathan never swears. Your mother swears more than you do.
Yeah.
What did you say?
No, that was a big effort moment, and I realized that, being sad is not going to do it, and it's not going to get the job done. And so, I
that's how you expressed your anger.
And it was
You're
good.
like, screw this.
Yeah,
I'm going to do this.
It wasn't anger where I'm screaming at people. It was just anger of not being happy where I currently was in that situation and doing something about it and doing something to change it. And so, in 45 minutes, I had the thing out of the car, taken apart, fixed, sealed back up, and was ready to go back in the car. And I mean, it was another hour after that and I was done. And I ended up making it. I worked until about 10 o'clock on that Friday night, and I made it at 8 a.m. on that Saturday morning to the show. So it's proof that if you take a situation that's not so great and you're feeling sad about it, finding a little bit of that anger to spark some drive is really important, I think.
And you did it. And toast
I did
to
it.
you.
That's right.
So what on earth is this? This is one of my favorite summer drinks. It's actually watermelon and cocoa. That's simple. And it's sweet and refreshing and juicy. Now it needs to be mixed up a little bit. It's been sitting here for isn't that interesting that the watermelon color, we try to coordinate what we're wearing. I don't know if we're coordinating or clashing here tonight, but kind of doesn't it remind you of the watermelon color? So, no, it's nice. But this is so good. You have to try it. People think they have to give up sweet tastes and decadent, wonderful things that totally excite your taste buds. But unless they want to give up good health, but not here.
No, it's incredibly
At the McKee residence and SanaView, we teach people sweet, refreshing, chocolatey, crazy delicious, but crazy healthy for you. The watermelon is really rich with vitamin C and antioxidants, and the cocoa is extremely high in antioxidants. It's so good, isn't it?
Yeah, no, that is very good.
So congratulations to Nathan for going from sadness to anger, even to the point where you swore for, I think, the first time in your life, to then within 45 minutes, you get the whole thing down, rebuilt, and back up, and makes it to the Pittsburgh Vintage Grand Prix the next morning at 8 a.m.
Yeah, I was very happy about that.
You could have given up.
Yeah, I could have given up, and I really wanted to. When I was sitting there on the shop floor, and I realized that I had all this work ahead of me, it would have been so easy for me to pick up my stuff, put the tools away, go home, not try to fix it, and then be upset about not having it done, and then it was just going to drag out the project. Everything about sitting in that sadness was going to be bad. It was just a bad outcome no matter how I looked at it. But getting the car done and having that fuel to do it was the right thing to do. It was absolutely the right thing to do.
So from sadness and hopelessness, you climbed yourself up that ladder to anger, to determination, to success. And that is the whole idea of like raising, even something as negative as it seems like as anger can actually be positive. And this is interesting because as I write my book about stressless success, how we need to diminish stress, it blocks us from solutions and opportunities and so forth. and how to then raise your energy vibration. Actually talk about, there is something called positive stress and negative stress. So negative stress is you're totally stressed out and you have so much resistance, you block all solutions, all possibilities, opportunities.
Yeah.
But there is something that's positive stress. And it's interesting because I talk in the book about how stress is bad for your health. But research actually has shown that people that believe that stress is bad for your health have a higher mortality rate. I think I mentioned this last time. And people that don't believe that stress is bad for them, they know to use stress for fueling them toward positive action, actually live longer.
The positivity piece in this is very important. And like I said, it's not that I got angry and then I was screaming at everybody who was at the shop with me. Like that's not what I mean by anger. This isn't
you're not
a
like
negative
that. That's not your
thing.
personality.
No, at least I try not to be like that, you know, but it's not like, don't read the title of this and be like, oh, I'm going to go out and get angry at everybody because that's the thing to do. It's a very particular type of anger, but then changing that anger into determination.
Determination and positivity and success. And I just had the same experience, which is really, this is what happens with us. We have experiences and we get together and start, we're doing that self-introspection. Like, how did this situation affect us? How did we respond? How could we have done better? And what's happening? And just last weekend, so just the background, we've been developing a program for years.
Yeah.
And we've been developing something basically by the bootstraps. Like, we're developing something and approving it. And as we generate revenue, we take that money and reinvest it. And everything we develop, I mean, we make all our own money. Nobody gives us money to like create things. We fund everything ourselves. And so everything we do, we have to look at, okay, what money are we bringing in and how much can we allocate to further invest in the business and develop it? So through our blood, sweat, and tears, we have been developing a program. And last weekend, I discovered, well, I heard about this in the grapevine, which was making me uncomfortable, but last weekend I witnessed where a quote-unquote competitor watched what we were developing for the past several years, saw that we were being successful with it, but this competitor is very wealthy. And they're very successful and they have a lot of money. Within 4 months, they took all their money, threw it into creating what appears to be a competitive situation. And I witnessed it last weekend. And at first, I'm sitting there and just experiencing such discomfort. I was like, the feeling of losing, of failing, of not being good enough, right? I was fighting all of these feelings and I realized fighting them was only going to make them worse. So I just sat there and I just kept trying to raise my thinking, raise my vibration, like appreciating the moment and just working my thoughts until finally I realized I'm sitting there saying, you know what? I am sick and tired of being second best. I refuse to be second best in any area of my life from this point forward. I actually got angry. I went from feeling hopeless to anger. And it reminded me of the famous movie Gone with the Wind, right? Scarlett O'Hara, that moment. Do you remember that? Where she is literally, they're down and out, right? The war, the disaster, the destruction, and she comes from a lot of wealth, right? And she's at the moment pulling something like out of the field and eating it. And finally she realized, and she said something like, if God is my witness, I will never go hungry again.
Yeah, that's right.
She even said something like, even if I have to cheat and steal, which is not what we're about.
That's not what we're doing here.
But she became angry. She became so determined for herself and for her family. That was like the turning point of the movie. After all that destruction, it was her anger and determination that turned things around. And that's what I was feeling last Saturday.
It's not just a race to see who can throw more money at their program. It's all the heart and soul that you've put into it for years. I mean, anytime there was a lack of money, you always filled that gap with the heart and the soul and the passion and the enthusiasm. And so it's hard to see somebody else come along and just throw a bunch of cash at something.
Especially when what we're doing is for you. It's for other people. We want to develop these programs to inspire you to live a better life. Like everything we do comes from our heart and soul. Like we want the best for you. We're doing this because we want to share what we go through so that you don't have to struggle the way we did and you can learn from what we've learned. And so that's what was so disheartening about it. Yeah. But that anger and that realization that in both my personal and my professional life, I refuse to be second best ever again, ever. What happened then after that? We became like, inspired, and our thinking has become so creative on how to take what we have and make it even better, make it more interesting. We began to focus on all of the areas that make us unique and all of our strengths. We're focusing on our strengths instead of our weaknesses, which is a teaching in high performance, right? And that's what the world's most accomplished people do. They focus on their strengths and not on their weaknesses, and they keep fueling themselves based on their strengths. And that's what we're doing now.
Yeah, and it's been good.
I'm really excited about some of the things that we're planning to do to help bring our strengths to light in even a greater way so that we can do a better job for you.
That's exactly right.
We are living what my father has been trying to teach us for years about don't get sad, don't give up. You never have to feel hopeless or helpless again. You never have to feel second rate again. It all comes down to the power you have within you to take that situation and turn it around and get angry and fuel yourself to positive action. Positive anticipation, to become more creative, to create the life and the outcome that you desire. And that is why we are here celebrating on the summer afternoon with our
chocolate watermelon smoothies.
Decadent, delicious. Life is sweet. Life is delicious. Life has so much to offer you. So go out there and get angry and create the life that you deserve. Thank you for joining us today. We love you very much. And I love you very much.
Love me too.